Hello, welcome back to my channel. This is BRAMstrology, where you are now taking steps to becoming your rare, authentically mastered self using the language of the stars. My name is Brandon, and today we're going to be talking about Jessie J's birth chart. So, I'm really excited about this video because I love Jessie J. I've always had a resonance with her. She is my, pretty much all-time favorite artist ever. I literally found her years ago when I was in high school, and her music is just, it just speaks to me in such a beautiful way. And I've wanted to do her birth chart for such a long time, and I did a video on my channel called the Rose in Scorpio video, and that actually is based off of her actual album where she broke down the rose into an acronym that I use for that same video. So I'm just paying homage to her. I love Jessie J. She's phenomenal. And I wanted to just read her chart and just kind of talk about it and what I saw. And I've seen this chart quite some time. I have it kind of in my head all the time when I think about her. And I'm excited to talk about some stuff. I have some notes written down of what I'm going to talk about in this video. And I love Jessie J, and I cannot wait to speak about all of these things. So I'm just going to pull up her chart on the screen in a second. But obviously, first of all, I probably should have just said all this prior to this, but hello, if you guys are new, my name is Brandon. Welcome to my channel. This is astrology stuff, if you couldn't tell by what I said in the beginning. Anywho, I have a bunch of resources down below if you want to check that out, both booking with me and or anything about Jessie J, her channel, her socials, all that stuff's down below too, because she's, amazing. Love her. Half this video is going to be me, just being an absolute, fan, and then the other half is going to be me actually, working. So, whatever. It's fine. But anywho, yeah, so any resources that I feel are important throughout the course of this video that I mentioned are going to be in the description box below, as well as any of her socials and things are going to be down there as well. But anywho, I'm just going to get started, so I'll see you in the next part where we actually go over, reading through her chart. So, yeah. Okay, so Jessie J was born on March 27th, 1988 at 9:27 a.m. in London, England. So I'm excited about this chart reading. I can't wait. But anywho, we're going to put it on the screen, and we're going to just kind of talk through it and talk through the chart and what's coming up. So I'll put it on the screen now. So there is the chart. So, Jessie J, we're going to start on the left here, which is the ascendant. We're going to go this way. So the ascendant sign is at 14 degrees of Gemini. Then she has Chiron at 23 degrees of Gemini in the first house. Her second house and third house are both ruled by Cancer. Then she has her Vesta at 24 degrees of Cancer. Her moon at 0 degrees of Leo. Her IC at 9 degrees of Leo. Her Lilith is at 19 degrees of Leo in the fourth house. Her fifth house is ruled by Virgo. Then she has her part of fortune at 8 degrees of Libra in the fifth house. Her sixth house is ruled by Libra. Her vertex is at 3 degrees of Scorpio. Her Pluto is retrograde, 12 degrees of Scorpio in the sixth house. And then we have her seventh house descendant is 14 degrees of Sagittarius. And then we have her very powerful Uranus and Saturn conjunction at 1 and 2 degrees of Capricorn. Then we have Neptune at 10 degrees of Capricorn in the 8th house. Capricorn rules both her 8th and 9th house. And then we have Mars in her 9th house at 22 degrees of Capricorn. Then we have her midheaven is at 9 degrees of Aquarius, with Pallas right behind it at 8 degrees of Aquarius, conjuncting that midheaven. Then we have her Ceres is at 2 degrees of Pisces in the 10th house. Then we have her 11th house is ruled by Pisces, with Mercury at 15 degrees and the North Node at 23 degrees of Pisces. Then we have the Sun at 6 degrees of Aries in the 11th house. Her 12th house is ruled by Aries, with Juno at 28 degrees of Aries, her Jupiter at 4 degrees of Taurus, her East Point at 14 degrees of Taurus, and her Venus at 22 degrees of Taurus in the 12th house. And then back at the ascendant. So, this is fun. This is fun. It's a lot of fun. I've looked at this chart so many times, and I'm very excited to read it and talk about it in many different ways. So I have a little list, like I said, of what I'm going to be talking about. And I guess, okay, the first thing I'm just going to talk about, because this is what I want to talk about with her chart for a while, because whenever I think of this planetary combination, I literally just think of her. So we're going to talk about the Aries Sun, Leo Moon combination. So when someone has an Aries Sun, Leo Moon, this is fun. Emphasis on the fun, like the actual doing of fun and doing things. So the sun absolutely loves to be in Aries. It's exalted in Aries. It is considered to express itself in the most powerful way in Aries. Now, the sun naturally rules Leo. So, with the sun being in Aries and then the lunar quality, the more private quality, being in Leo, this just makes the personality large, because there's so much solar energy with this combination, because the sun is naturally it's just fiery. Aries suns are they're just amazing. They're just powerful. They're leaders. They're people that are willing to stand up and go after for what they want and don't really like care who they really kind of either step on, or not really step on, but kind of they don't mind being a lone wolf and going in that direction, as an Aries. But then when you add the Leo moon to it, the Leo moon makes for a really just fun-loving, enjoyable energy. Now, the moon in Leo, the moon typically represents our more inner life, our more inner world. Now, the moon is in Leo. It is very fun, enjoyable within the private life, and a lot of creativity, a lot of joy, a lot of expression of the childlike self, of just like having fun and enjoying that process and just kind of being lighthearted in that way. And now, when a Leo moon literally just exists, the Leo moon energy can be so bright in their personal life, depending on where it's at in the chart, of course, but for the most part, Leo moons are so bright in their personal life and in their their own private relationships, that like fun-loving and very like creative light that they have as a Leo moon kind of spills out to the rest of their life, in the sense of creativity, in the sense of being able to just show the world who they are unapologetically, and shine in that very Leo-esque way. And this sun and moon combination is just beautiful. Having a lot of fire can make for someone that is very very invigorating, very sort of inspiring, motivating, but it can also burn those people out. When you have too much fire in a chart, which she doesn't really have much fire in relation to that, but when you have too much fire or too like strong of a fiery influence, which she does have, because the sun and moon are both really strong in that way, it can get burnt out through doing too much, through acting too abrasive or too sort of impulsively, right, with that sun in Aries. But as we kind of progress through the chart, we'll kind of get more of a consistent profile, kind of how Jessie J has gotten to where she's gotten to, and how she kind of keeps that even keel, and kind of what she's going through and what she has to kind of learn within this life. And it's really, really interesting what she's got going on. But anyway, that's the sun-moon combination there. It's really bright, really fun, and really well-placed, honestly. The sun in Aries, moon in Leo is just a really well-placed combination. They really work well with one another, and they're very just fun and enjoyable to be around. So that's the sun in Aries and moon in Leo. The next thing I want to talk about is her. We're just going to talk about her chart ruler, which is Mercury. She's a Gemini rising, so we're going to talk about her chart ruler being Mercury in Pisces conjunct the North Node. So that's the next part. Okay, so Mercury is her chart ruler. She is a Gemini rising, so she is ruled by Mercurial energy. She has a very childlike, sort of joyful way about her with having a Gemini rising. And her ruler of her Gemini rising is her Mercury in Pisces. And so Mercury in Pisces as a chart ruler can be a little difficult for people that are not spiritual or not in creative things. If they're in jobs that are very monotonous and very analytical, and very organized and kind of like diligent and just routine, and they don't have that creative outlet, or they don't have that ability to kind of escape into something that allows them to feel joy or feel a connection to something higher, they're not going to be for it, you know. And this Mercury Pisces is technically not a great placement with Mercury being in Pisces. Typically doesn't like to be in Pisces because it can't really ground in reality unless Mercury works in the realm of vibes and energy and music. Mercury and Pisces people in general are very artistic, able to communicate through music, probably better than they can through actual physical words. Mercury and any Pisces Neptune energy can likely communicate through just like the feeling, and they can get their feelings out through music, art, and dance, and those things. And also Mercury Pisces can have a very creative mind to them, where they're able to feel things and be able to kind of express more abstract concepts than most people would. And they think of things very differently because they're able to feel into kind of the collective energy and kind of the unforeseen energy of kind of the future. And Mercury and Pisces also have to trust their speech, trust what they're doing, trust their way of communicating. Because Mercury and Pisces, when you put them in something that is, mundane and needs to be kind of organized and diligent and understood, they might not be able to grasp it. So they need to have some sort of ability to balance out and have some sort of grounding within their mind. Because if they don't, and they just go into, the etheric or the this sort of creative out of this body, out of this reality sort of way, they might lose themselves, and they might lose that connection to their physical body in a sense, because they're so deeply involved with creative things or music or art or kind of connecting to some divine energy, which isn't a bad thing all the time, but it needs to be balanced out with the Virgo side of this axis, which we're going to talk about as well, because she has her South Node in Virgo, North Node in Pisces. Now, wherever the North Node sits, it kind of exacerbates that energy, or it brings out a influx of movement in the direction of that energy. So it's going to force the native of that placement to move in that direction. So with the North Node being in Pisces, overall as a placement, she's going to be someone that is needing to move into a connection with spirituality, needing to move in a connection with a divine trust, needing to kind of develop those higher intuitive qualities, and kind of find a sense of belief and a sense of faith. Now, the Virgo-Pisces axis has a lot to do with the idea of potential, and the Virgo side of things is the physical potential, and this is based off of what you've already previously done. So what I mean by that is, if you are heavy in the Virgo side of things and you're trying to understand how best to move with Virgo energy that you may or may not have, it's to look around you and see what you've already done in your environment that you physically have, that you can tangibly work with. So if you know that you have a routine where you go and you go and you drive this way, or you go and you work this way, or whatever it may be, and you have those physical routines that you've built, it's knowing the potential that you have to continue those routines and how those routines can actually create something long term if you continue at them in a physical, tangible way. Now, the Virgo is, like I said, the physical potential based off of what you've already physically accomplished prior, and the routines and the habits and things that you've built. Now, the Pisces side of things, which is where her North Node is at, is on the imagined potential. It's on the potential of what could be if, if this happened, right? If something happened, or if, I felt this sort of way, where would this go? That's why Pisces energy is very imaginative, because they're able to connect to the higher potential in the sense of the imagined potential of something that isn't tangible as of yet. So it's important for people that have heavy Pisces or Virgo energy to understand the power of potential on both ends and be able to lean into either end of this. Now, with Jessie J having her North Node in Pisces, this means that a lot of her movement is going to be towards kind of actualizing and thinking about, a lot of thinking about actually, that imagined potential of, you know, what would happen if I felt this way, or what would happen if the world went in this direction, right? There's a lot of that. And now with Mercury joined with the North Node in Pisces, Mercury North Node aspects typically expand the scope and the ability of the person to communicate and the kind of audience that they may have. Now, Mercury Pisces is very creative, very connected to the collective, right? Any of the Neptune, Uranus, or Plutonic energies are all related to the collective in some way. Now, with Mercury North Node, there is an energy of projection on that. There's energy of sort of like unclear communication that may happen, or people projecting onto her what she said, may have not said. Because Mercury Pisces people typically will communicate in ways that might not make sense to anyone else, because they're so tapped in sometimes that they're not able to, the other people view what they said as something completely different than what they actually meant. And Mercury Pisces just kind of has to go with the vibes and the energy and be in a very good emotional and like emotional space and environment to communicate. And that's why Mercury Pisces can typically communicate much better through music and through lyrics and through expressions of things that aren't typical of the mind. Something that is very much subconscious with Mercury Pisces. And this Mercury North Node conjunction does have a lot of energy around it of people talking about her too, and unclear people talking about her. In the sense that it might be gossip, it might be those things, might be that, might be whatever it may be. And even this is like an example of people talking about her in sort of a projection way, right? Because whenever you have Pisces energy, people tend to project on you in a way that how they perceive you, right? And this energy does exacerbate that communication energy, and whether it's her communication about spiritual, music, you know, religious concepts, or people communicating about her and about her artistry, or about her connection, or about her vibe, or her energy, or whatever it may be. And there is kind of both ends of that. And if there's any like writing, I would definitely recommend there's some foreign writing. There's some sort of ability to write not just music, but actually write like a creative book, or write some sort of fantasy book might be something that might definitely benefit someone like Jessie J that has this placement. So yeah, there's a lot I could talk about that. I'm not going to get into more of the Mercury North Node energy, but because I'm trying to make this video short, kind of. So I guess the next thing I'm going to talk about is her Venus trine Mars, which is actually her tightest aspect in her chart. So we're going to talk about that right next. Okay, so Venus trine Mars is actually her tightest aspect. So Venus is in the sign of Taurus at 22 degrees. Mars is in the sign of Capricorn at 22 degrees. So both these energies, very much like the Sun in Aries, Moon in Leo, these are really supportive as well. Because Venus is in its home sign, Mars is in its sign of exaltation. So her Sun and Moon are doing that little dance. The Venus and Mars are doing that dance. Venus and Mars are more so doing that because the Moon doesn't have like a natural rulership of the Sun. It doesn't have that. But with this Venus in the sign of Venus and Mars exalted in its sign of Capricorn, girl, like, she knows what she wants and she knows how to get it. Period. The girls that get it, and Jessie J gets it. You know, that's really honestly what it is. And this Venus in Taurus is beautiful. It has a lot of like solid understanding of their values. Now we're going to talk about the Venus being specifically in the 12th house in a moment, because there's a lot of that too to work with. But as it relates to the Venus trine Mars, this is just a supportive energy of just what she wants, she knows how to get, right? Venus in Taurus has a lot of a solid understanding of their physical value and tangible value, and and more specifically their material value and the resources they have to work with. Now, the Venus in Taurus has its own sort of caveat to it because it can get so stuck in the physical reality that it doesn't understand that there's an emotional concept of how it's affecting others, how its resources and how its use of its own resources may be affecting the emotional nature of others. Now, I don't think that's entirely the case with her because she has a heavy 8th house influence, so I don't really see that being that much of an issue. But Venus in Taurus does need to learn how to balance out their physical resources with, understanding that their use of their physical resources and how they use their money does have an impact on others and can actually leave a legacy, and kind of impact others and hurt people and or help people or empower people in different ways. But overall, Venus Taurus is just a really nice, soft, approachable energy, and it has its own sort of connection to artistry as well, where Venus in Taurus is naturally, Taurus naturally rules the throat, so Venus being in Taurus naturally is a really prominent placement for singers in general, and the ability to kind of speak and sing and kind of just have that voice that's just, people want to hear you talk because it's just soft and approachable and it makes them feel loved and cared for and appreciated, right? And then the Mars in Capricorn, with the Mars being in Capricorn, there is an energy of what I want, I know how to get, I know how to play the time and kind of work within the confines of what I need to and within the limits of what I have. I know how to go out and get what I want. And Mars in Capricorn has its own sort of focus to it, where it is very business oriented. It is very much connected to long-term goals, long-term aspirations. Now, as it relates to Capricorn being in the 8th and 9th house, and then this Mars being in the 9th house, there may be some sort of empowering, disempowering energy, either in relation to her own self and her own authority, which I don't really see that because she has, she's already gone through her Saturn return and all those things. But it's a matter of kind of being most diligent with the use of her energy in a way that doesn't disempower herself or others, which is kind of what I was hinting at with the whole Venus opposite, or Venus and Taurus opposite the Scorpio part. And so the Mars there it knows what it wants. It's powerful. It can get what it wants, and it works very, very prominently and very well in Capricorn. And this trine just supports those two energies. It's really something that it doesn't surprise me that she kind of just, I don't want to say gets what she wants because that's not the way it is, but she knows what she wants and she knows how to get it. If anything, she actually knows how to get it more so than she knows what she wants, because that Venus is in the 12th. But if she connects to music, she connects to that deeper part of herself and that subconscious, and kind of goes within herself and kind of shuts out the noise. She can really honestly feel and understand a lot of what her values actually are, separate of the voices around her or the influences around her, so that she can more easily go after her goals and go after specifically what it is that she wants that's going to be in line with that. But I do think the Mars is much stronger in this chart than the Venus, especially because Mars is her solar ruler, because she's an Aries Sun. So this Mars energy is definitely more prominent in the way that she goes after what she wants, and she knows how to get it, and she knows how to focus her energy into the goals that she's looking for, more specifically for her career, because it is Capricorn, but also just in general, just in the legacy she wants to leave, and kind of the impact she wants to have on society. So that's that part. So I guess now we're just going to talk about the Venus in the 12th house, because I haven't really talked about that entirely yet. So we'll talk about that in the next part. Okay, so Venus in the 12th house. Venus is at 22 degrees of Taurus in the 12th house of kind of the subconscious, the hidden sort of things. Now, with this 12th house energy and with her being a public figure, I am not going to kind of dig super deep into this because privacy, right? I don't want to be upsetting anyone with the amount of information that I'm going into with this reading. Now, Venus in the 12th typically has some sort of connection to relationships that might be a little harder to reach, right? And that's why I don't like really going into 12th house stuff publicly on a YouTube channel, unless it's for a private client, then we'll talk about that. But for the most part, Venus 12th house, there's a lot of karma with relationships, karma with sort of idealizing relationships and a lack of boundaries with relationships as well, because Venus in the 12th, although it loves to be in the 12th house, but this brings up once again the idea of this imagined potential, and a lot of people with Venus in the 12th house can see the imagined potential of a partner, but not see the actual potential of what they actually are, or who they actually are. And with Venus in the 12th, it can be really, really creative. And this is another creative aspect. Her chart just really does scream creativity and kind of those things. But it does have a way about it of maybe being unclear with what it is that they want out of a relationship. Now, I don't really see that entirely, just because Venus isn't making like a super strong aspect to Saturn. And it does seem like those energies of Venus are a little bit easier for her to access than it would be otherwise, because Jupiter's there as well, kind of bringing in more of a belief in the self, a belief in the self-value, belief in the resources, more resources to work with, honestly. There's a lot more resources for her to work with than she might be letting people know about. But it might not just be in the sense of tangible assets. It's more than likely tangible assets, because it's Taurus, it's Earth. But it also, because it's in the 12th house, it's difficult to narrow down what those assets might be. It might just be a lot of spiritual truths that she's gathered along the way, that she knows kind of how to navigate, whatever it may be, or the vibrations, or whatever sort of energy that she's working with. I think she knows how to navigate it with that Venus being in the 12th house, especially because she has this Pisces North Node in that way too. So there might be some interesting conversations that she may have that have given her more value, that she's been able to integrate into her actual career and into fulfilling her purpose here, which is to communicate more creatively and kind of communicate in a way that is projected upon, that is, music is literally Pisces Mercury things. And I think there may be some almost intuitive connection to music. I feel like a lot of that. I feel like there's almost an intuitive connection to music, in the sense of like really feeling the vibrations and not necessarily on an intellectual level, and understand them on an intellectual level, but more on a visceral feeling level, like really feeling how a certain chord feels to you, and resonates with you and vibes with you, right? And those are all words that are kind of related to 12th house things and Pisces things, but being able to use that as a resource and a way to kind of just know how the music feels, and know how what she's creating and the resources that she's creating feels, not just to her, but to the collective, because of course it's Pisces 12th house stuff, so it's the collective subconscious, and she's able to tap into those energies and what's going to feel good, right? And it's not just in the sense of like understanding music theory and things of that nature, but really feeling collectively what the collective is asking for right now. And Jessie J definitely has a connection to that. And the more connected she is to that, the more she communicates that, the more she's able to actually provide value for herself, and the more she gets compensated for it, both, relationally, and then both physically, tangibly within this sort of, reality, So that's that. Like I said, I don't want to go too deep into that. And then the other things I'm going to talk about, I have two more things to talk about, is her Chiron conjunct the Ascendant and also square the North Node. So I'll see you in the next part. Okay, so Jessie J has Chiron conjunct her Ascendant and square the North Node. Once again, this is something I don't really want to get into entirely, because privacy, and I don't want to get into things that are not mine to get into, especially because this is a public video. This is not a private video for Jessie J specifically, which if she's watching this, hey, what up? If you want to read in, I will gladly dive into all the tea, but I don't want to do that because that's just, like I said, half this video is me fangirling, half this video is me like actually doing a reading. But anywho, so the Chiron conjunct the Ascendant. Okay, this is where a little bit of this this chart kind of opens up more, because Chiron's in Gemini and it's conjunct the Ascendant. So Chiron in Gemini, as just an overall staple, is going to be someone who might doubt their ability to speak, who might doubt their ability to understand the world, and might have some wounding around their words and around misinterpretation of their words, which hints back at the Mercury in Pisces. And Chiron in Gemini, although it is the wounded healer, as it relates to the mind, as it relates to the understanding and the accumulation of knowledge, it also has to do with the healer part. It's not just the wounded part where it's like, you know, I'm hurt, I'm not able to communicate well, I'm not able to kind of understand things in the same way other people are, but it's also in the healer part, where Chiron in Gemini is able to heal people through their words, through their communication, through their ability to speak, and communicate in whatever way they are doing. Now, with Chiron being in Gemini, and the ruler of Chiron and the ruler of the ascendant being in Pisces, it just really pushes towards that Mercury North node in Pisces that she has, that I spoke about before, where it's just really like healing, really healing. There is a sense of kind of almost a loss of the ability to speak, or it may have, I mean, if you believe in past lives, there may have been some sort of past life karma where the ability to speak was actually taken away. And now they're able to speak in such a broader way and develop that speaking ability through massive sort of communication, and communication of a very intuitive level. Now, this can be, like I said, a loss of the ability to speak, or like a doubt of, or kind of like just strange things that can't be understood with the mind and going through them. So this is a lot of spiritual energy, a lot of spiritual sort of awakenings, but kind of like, but through a sense of confusion, or a sense of loss, or a sense of misunderstanding. You know, and Mercury Chiron energy can be very rough to kind of work with, because Mercury rules the mind, it rules the communication aspect, and it is something that we can't not work with Mercury. We can't not have mercurial energy within our lives. Now, this Gemini ascendant is also right next to this Gemini Chiron, which Chiron conjunct the ascendant has a very wounded quality about kind of coming into life and going after what they want. Now, and I wish I could talk about this way more, but I can't, because I'm trying to keep this video very brief. But with the Chiron conjunct the ascendant in Gemini, there is almost a wounding in the ability to go after what they want, because of the disbelief in themselves, or a doubt within themselves, pretty much given to them from an earlier age, when they were like younger in grade school potentially. And Chiron ascendant people are typically, once again, projected upon, because they become an embodiment of a wound within someone, but also they become an embodiment of the process of healing through that wound. So it's an interesting energy in that way. Chiron conjunct the ascendant can also be kind of like a soul that didn't want to be here, you know, or kind of has these like, doesn't feel like they belong here sort of thing. That's kind of a lot of the energy I tend to get with the Chiron conjunct the ascendant. And there is there's some wounding within the mind, or kind of like a mind that's kind of on the fringe of loss, or kind of an ability, or a fear of loss of the ability to speak, but that won't happen because Chiron doesn't really do that, because it wants you to heal through that process. It's not going to take it away entirely. It's going to really allow you to use that to speak more clearly, or speak in the way that you're supposed to, which with this specific chart is going to be with Pisces 11th house things, which is, you know, communication on a mass scale, and kind of putting something out there in a creative way and seeing where it kind of goes and how it affects the collective. So it's really nice. And then Mercury is squaring the nodes, so that does mean that this is going to be kind of a skipped step, in the sense of what was not integrated into the life, because Mercury is also squaring the south node. So a lot of this has to do with the speaking ability. Honestly, it's really about the speaking ability and the ability to understand what's going on around you, and best navigate that. And best learn too, because I don't know, I think what it may have been too with Jessie J was sort of like trying to learn something that wasn't music, for some time, and it didn't tend to work. It didn't tend to kind of work out, but music always kept kind of pulling her in a sense. Because I tend to see with Chiron and Gemini in the first house and a Gemini rising, there tends to be it's like there's some sort of division of going in the direction of a monotonous sort of structured thing, structured subject, job, whatever it may be, versus the creative sort of music. Obviously that's where she went, but that sort of energy. Now, there is this energy of, as it kind of relates to that, going back to the South Node in Virgo, there is a very strong thing in her chart about health, and understanding health, understanding routine, and being able to kind of go in that and work through those things. Now, I know based off of the media and the things that she has shared publicly that she has had quite a lot of medical sort of abnormalities or difficulties and things that have kind of plagued her and kind of come up here and there throughout the course of her life. Granted, she has gone through that. She's done what she needed to do, and she's healed in whatever way that she's at now, where she is able to kind of just keep going in that Pisces direction. And the Pisces direction is trusting in this divine sort of energy and kind of having this faith-based belief, right? And there is a lot of health potential crisis that she's gone through, like I said, and it is indicative within her chart that's kind of something that she is going to have to kind of understand how to work with. But it is something that I honestly believe that, and this is something that I just believe as well as like an individual, but being able to transmute the energy of the pain that you're going through, the difficulties you're going through in life, into something like music is so healing, and it's so therapeutic for the person who's experiencing that trauma or that difficulty to process that and heal that and work through that. So because Virgo and Pisces are on the axis considered for health, both physical health and spiritual health, leaning into spiritual health for means of leaning into spiritual health for means of coping with the lack of physical health, or the difficulty with physical health rather, is going to help her a lot more than the other way around, if that makes sense. So moving into spiritual health, moving into creating those spiritual routines without necessarily neglecting the physical routines and maintaining some sort of physical routine, because there is an importance of balancing those things out. But it's a movement more so in the development of that spiritual health, spiritual transcendence, and the faith and the connection to that, and a connection to something in a divine sense. And so, yeah, and she has a very, very powerful energy around her, and I absolutely love it. I love the way that she performs, that she just lives and exists, and I'm so grateful to be able to read this chart. Granted, like I said, it is public, so this isn't something that I'm able to read as deeply as I would like to, because she's not my client, so I can't like read in that way. So this is very much a surface level sort of reading, but there is a lot of things within this that I think are of value to people that have those same placements as her, or people that have similar placements in that same sort of way. Or even her, or anyone that kind of knows of her or is able to kind of interpret her. I think it does help as well in that way. Yeah, so that's pretty much most I want to talk about here. And then, yeah, I'm going to talk about a little added tidbit, just because there's some interesting transits that she's going through here that I want to talk about, mainly just the nodal axis that's moving. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment. And yeah, so I'll see you next part. Okay, so as for the transits that Jessie J is going through currently and kind of over the next year, it's a pretty pivotal time for her. It's a pivotal time for many of us, right? But for her, she has some interesting stuff. So the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction that happens later on this year, it's 2022, is going to conjunct exactly on her North Node. So currently, at the time of recording this, Neptune is pretty much exactly on her North Node. by, it's like 1 degree off. And Jupiter is going to approach in exact conjunction to that Neptune. So she has been pulled more and more and more into spirituality, into that direction, into her purpose, honestly. Neptune on the North Node may have increased her intuition, increased her spiritual connection, increased maybe even like a disconnection from the physical reality, because Neptune is very, very strong when it does come in. And when Neptune goes over the North Node, it typically will show a kind of living in a whole different reality, in the sense of the imagination, in the sense of kind of a dreamy sort of sense. But because I'm assuming that she's been able to use that and bring it into more of her actual artistry and her work that she does, I think that definitely does assist in coping with that Neptune North Node energy, because I don't know how anyone could do that. But as Jupiter approaches that too, I definitely believe that once the Jupiter North Node conjunction happens directly on that North Node, for her specifically, it's going to expand her belief and expand a lot of things for her, almost to a point potentially of either inability to handle it or inability to understand it. And that's all just in general, just a Jupiter North Node conjunction thing. But for her specifically, because it's on her North Node, it's going to exacerbate that. So there might be some very large spiritual teacher that she goes through, or that she meets, or whatever. Or it might be a very like a bigger push into her purpose, or maybe into incorporating something that isn't quite understood with music. And kind of what I mean by that is, this is kind of way out of left field, but kind of more so like tonal singing, and less so the actual lyrical part of it, like not really lyrical singing. More so tones and specific sort of resonances of frequencies, I think, is kind of what I'm feeling with that. Because it seems like there might be some movement towards a different sort of music with her, a different sort of approach to music or to her purpose as this Jupiter North Node conjunction happens over her North Node. So she has that going on. At the same time, she has the South Node and the North Node transiting her. South Node is in the 6th house in Scorpio. North Node is in the 12th house in Taurus. Now, the thing about this that's interesting to me is the North Node is in the 12th house, that is ruled by Pisces, ruled by unexplainable energies, and kind of transcendence, and kind of trusting that process and a connection to the divine. While at the same time, Jupiter and Neptune are conjuncting the North Node in Pisces. So there might be a really big, a larger purpose for her to connect to the divine, to connect to stabilizing her value within the divine, if that makes any sense, or kind of like her worth within the divine sense of what she's doing. And there's some movement in that direction too. And then the North Node is also eventually going to conjunct her own Jupiter. So there's some interesting development of beliefs that is gonna be happening for her, and a development for new beliefs to come in. There might be an overabundance of doing too much, or maybe spending too much too, with Jupiter being in Taurus, and the North Node coming over to exacerbate that. There might be overspending of things, or overspending of trying to find that connection to the divine, or trying to recreate that sort of vibe or that connection that she had previously. But there is that as well. The South Node is going to be in Scorpio, which is in her 6th house, and that is going to have an energy of kind of reaffirming this South Node in Virgo, North Node in Pisces that she naturally has. So this is a lot of a big focus for her over the next year or so, is going to be really balancing out this 6th house, 12th house Virgo Pisces energy that is really allowing her to get more in connection with the divine, get more in connection to vibes and energy around her, and things that people can't see but she can feel, right? She's very intuitive, very in touch with that, and if not, she's going to be even more so very, very soon. Yeah, she has a beautiful energy. I love it. But that's really that with that. I mean, there's plenty of other transits I could talk about. I don't really want to get into all of them. But I think she has a very powerful chart, and I'm so grateful to have been able to read this chart here today, because I love her, and I have been wanting to read this chart for a long time. I put it off for quite some time for some reason, but I'm grateful to have read it at this time. So thank you. Just thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you guys are interested in checking out Jessie J, obviously her stuff's down below. She's phenomenal. She's amazing, as if you couldn't tell by all the things I've been saying. And of course, if you guys want to check out any more of my stuff, that's down below as well. Obviously, check out the Rose Scorpio video I made, literally based off of her album she made. So like, check that out. And then yeah, if you guys want to connect with me any further, you can there. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I enjoyed this. I love this. I love what I do. And I hope you guys have a great day. So love you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.